Not you guys, but whatever.
What? I don't know what was that.
I don't know, I just tried.
Alright guys, welcome back to the Talk Your Walk podcast. We've been talking about this for a while. We've been talking about having civil discussions and debates on the podcast. That being one of the main reasons that I first started it, was to get two people that have two different ideologies, ideas, or different policies on when it comes to politics. Have them sit down and be able to have a good conversation without it turning volatile, violent, or anything above that. It's very easy to get wrapped up in hatred when it comes to people having different ideas. And here on the Talk Your Walk podcast, we're going to avoid that to the best of our abilities. Well, people can have differences and have disagreements, but at the end of the day, we're all human. We all have raw emotions. And we're going to feel that on this episode. We're gonna go through some of those things between our guests Celia and Mathew. And let's get started.
Here we go.
All right, guys.
Celia.
Oh.
No, you kick it up. You kick it up.
No, I was going to say, so I understand that, so you went to high school at Santa Fe.
Mm-hmm.
Debate, you did a lot.
Yeah, I did a lot of debate.
Tell me about that.
I started debate. Well, I joined the team like halfway through my sophomore year, but that was past like competition season, so I mainly just practiced the team. And then my junior and senior year is when I actually like competed a lot.
Okay, and didn't you say Harvard?
Yeah, I competed at a Harvard competition.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
So the door's over there, right?
Yeah.
But,
Okay, awesome. And so what do you? So you go to Santa Fe right now?
Mm-hmm.
Santa Fe College, right?
Yeah.
And what do you do?
Well, so like I graduated high school halfway done with my AA. So the reason I'm at Santa Fe is to finish that up because of like financial reasons. But so right now I'm doing political science while I'm there. But when I transfer to university with pre-law, I'm gonna do pre-law.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
All right, awesome.
And Matt, so we previously had done an episode with you before. Of course, that was when we still only did audio. And in the audio, you can hear a creaking fan. You can hear wooden flooring being creaked on, and the echoing was.
And you hear my pen drop onto the floor.
Yeah.
You listen real. Oh, there's the ring. That's what it was. Yeah.
But our previous episode went really well. We loved having you. We're happy to have you back. Me and Noah couldn't really think of any better person to actually have a civil discussion with somebody else that actually knows what they're talking about, because we know you'd have some heavy competition. And
I've had competition from family members to lawmakers to other politicians. So it's definitely something that I find a passion in, political debate. But my big thing is, like as you guys said, having an area where we can just talk things out, because that's how you further along a country. Because you don't just attack people, you don't just shut down ideas. You dissect each idea and you come up with a compromise.
I couldn't agree more, man.
Action after the talking.
Yeah.
Just put that out there.
Oh yeah, of course you can't just talk.
What are some of the topics that that you discuss with family members and whatnot?
Big topic is white privilege. So as you guys can see, I look full white, but little do people know my father and his entire side are black. We're politically correct African American, where I think my great grandmother was a full Cherokee, but that's like a point something percent. I don't want to be like that one lady who's like 0.09% Cherokee or whatever. So, but no, that's the big thing that I talk about a lot with my family, is the whole white privilege thing, and that they don't. A lot of times they will call me out on some of these statistics that I bring to the table, provided by the U.S. Census Bureau, Forbes, the FBI's website, and they'll call white privilege, where the funny thing is I never experienced white privilege nor the opposite, black privilege, being able to be a part of that community, that the strong, tight-knit community that they have. I never fit in with the full white kids. I never fit in with the full black kids. I actually fit in with Hispanics a lot more than I did the white and the black communities.
So I thought you were when I first met you. I was like, oh, you're a fellow Puerto Rican, but
exactly, exactly. That's what everybody thinks. And I don't mind. I love all cultures, but there's a fine line between cultural appropriation and the statistics behind all things. So that's where I'm at right now.
I believe that's a natural segue for some of the topics that we want to go over today. So since we gave you the floor to tell more about yourself than Celia did, I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor to start the discussion.
About white privilege?
Yes.
Well, white privilege is undeniably existing in our country. I mean, to say that it's not as completely ridiculous and asinine. I mean, if we look at white privilege exists in like beauty, in beauty products. Like, okay, so for example, if you go to a hotel and you're staying at the hotel, the products that they provide for you are for people that have like white hair. You know, like white people have different hair than people of color, and they aren't given the same like products provided in those hotels. But that's even just small things. We can go and look at to how people are getting like the cops called on them for the most ridiculous things that they're doing. They're I want to say it was in Oakland, California. The guy that was just trying to barbecue in a park had the cops called on him. But had I been doing the same thing, I would not have had the cops called on me, because we have this negative connotation applied to colored people, unfortunately, and it's still an extreme and prominent thing in this country. And white people do not have to experience those horrible things that they have to. We do not have to experience we don't have to experience being looked at in such a negative way. We don't have to experience things like redlining. Redlining is a thing that has to do with when you're applying for loans for houses. Oftentimes colored people are not given loans for houses simply because people are racist, and they will not allow these people the same opportunity that we have. And because white people are privileged in that. We don't have to experience these negative and racist things that they have to go through every single day, and that is why we are privileged, because we will never have to know what that is like. I'll never have to know what that is like.
What? So what racism is like? So what do you mean by like?
What do you mean?
Not knowing what it's like again. Sorry.
I will never have to know what it is like to be called on, have the cops call me because I'm grilling in a park, but because somebody sees that I'm a different color, that I'm dangerous, you know. Or I will never have to check into a hotel and want to wash my hair with the products they provide, but I don't have the products that actually go with my texture of hair because I'm white, and they'll always provide that for me. I don't have to turn on the TV and worry about not seeing my representation of my people, because white people are consistently dominating media, dominating jobs, dominating everything. I will never have to experience that, because white privilege is a thing.
That was a lot. One thing that I will say about white privilege, I think there's a difference between white privilege and privilege of numbers. And so the United States, we all know that the white population in the United States supersedes that of the African American. I believe African Americans make up 13% of the United States, 12 to 13. Whereas I think white Americans make up about 49, maybe over 50, depending on what year you're looking at. And so I believe there's not white privilege, but privilege of numbers. So talking about the hair care products, the more people you appeal to, so it's easier to make a product for somebody with, let's say, your texture hair. Whereas making it for somebody with a curlier texture that needs more specific ingredients to that, it's capitalism. So I would blame capitalism more than I would blame racism. And so if you look at the numbers, as I said, generic, I'm not saying white hair is generic, but generic by the numbers versus specific hair care product. Does that kind of make sense?
But we still have, oh my God, I just like, but we still have the privilege of not having to deal with that capitalistic problem. We still don't have to deal with that. And though people of color do. That is why we have the white privilege.
Okay, let me explain something real quick. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I don't want to be called for white privilege. But one thing I would love to touch on real quick. Have you ever gotten in a political debate with a person of color?
Yes.
About race?
Yes.
Has your opinion ever been shot down due to the fact that your color is not of the color in question?
No.
Okay, so repetitively, I am shot down by my own family members called white supremacist and a racist because of my opinions and my statistics due to the fact that I am not of that color. Now, I will say something, capitalism sees no color but green. Same thing with statistics. Statistics sees no color, it sees numbers. And so my big argument here is that white people have to deal with maybe not the capitalistic racism, but definitely a social justice racism. It's become more and more common that white people, conservative white people especially, are shot down due to their political views because they are not of that race. Even if their arguments are perfectly acceptable and perfectly provable. It's the fact that they are not of that color that systemically they might not see that racism, but socially they are bashed. I am bashed constantly because I will speak out about certain things that involve the African American community, and because I am not of that color, I am automatically shot down. I mean, we see racism within the African American community itself. I mean, with Kanye being blasted on CNN. I mean, that's just an example of how racism is not just white people against everybody else. Racism is rampant through every span of race within this country. Now, if you want to talk about numbers and capitalism, did you know that white people aren't the #1 breadwinners of this country? It's actually Asians. Asian Americans make more money than white people by a huge amount. Want to know why? They dominate medical fields. The more higher paying jobs that a certain race will occupy, the more income they're going to have. Now, the numbers will prove that there is a higher number of high school dropouts within the African American community. That is a terrible thing. I'm not denying that. I honestly think we need more programs promoting high school, at least high school graduation, if not an AA degree, within all specs of races.
But you're recognizing that there are programs out there for not only, for blacks, but for whites as well.
Just a quick thing I'd like to touch on that John F. Kennedy had said. He said, "Let us accept our responsibilities for our own futures." And that kind of speaks to me. There's a bit more to that, but he talks more about Democratic and Republican type politics. But it's really more along the lines of, no matter where you started, that does not mean that's where you're going to end. And that it's that whole measure. How do you measure a man or a woman? How do you measure them? It's their work ethics. And I'm not saying either race works harder than the other, but not systematically, but consistently, we see a lot of the times from birth, African American families continuously tell their children, "Oh, you're living in a white man's world. This is a white person's world."
Well, they are.
But you paint that picture to them, and they will
paint the picture of reality is what you're saying.
You paint that picture to them, they're going to go with that through the rest of their lives. And they're automatically, anytime one little thing happens to them, who are they going to blame? Because their entire life they were told to blame who? White people. So no matter if it was their own fault, they're going to continue to blame white people. That kind of bleeds into my big point I want to make is we need to stop limiting communities, African American communities specifically. Too often, statistically, we see that African Americans either try to find jobs in music or sports. That's just the majority. And if they fail at those two things,
where are these statistics coming from? Because you keep
that's from the U.S. Census
Bureau. Going
Bureau.
statistics.
You can check the U.S. Census Bureau. That's where that one's from.
Okay.
But sports and music, if you give them those two options and they fail at those two options, and they grew up in an impoverished home with no future to look forward to because they're like, "I'm a failure. I failed at this. I failed at that." Not only are they going to be angry, they're going to be depressed, and they're not going to be motivated to do anything besides, as we've seen in the news, as you said, it is horrific seeing as many poor black representation in the news. I hate it. I would love to see people like my aunt, who was the first black equestrian Olympic gold medalist. I would love to see her within the news, but we'll never see that. We're only going to see what the majority populace wants to see, and that's what scares us. We see all the time. We don't see good news on the news.
So just to clarify, you're saying who is keeping them from being able to do these things? Who's keeping them from doing that?
Themselves, and the way that they were raised.
You're telling me that colored people are keeping themselves from being able to do these things, from being successful, is what you're saying?
Anyone, not just colored people.
I'm confused. Are we still talking about white privilege? What are we talking about?
We're talking about white privilege. I'm trying to debunk white privilege by explaining that there is no such thing as black oppression. There's self-oppression. Now I understand there might be.
So black people are oppressing themselves. No one else is. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much.
Okay. Thank you.
But so are white people and so are Hispanic people. If you continuously paint to a child that they're going to be growing up in a world that's never going to accept them, they're going to grow up thinking nobody's going to accept them.
Where is this generalization that every parent is telling their kids that they're never going to do this, they're never going to do that? Like, where is this generalization coming from?
MSNBC. They continuously attack America.
They ask every single parent what they're telling their kid. Like, you're making this huge generalization of families that doesn't even exist. You're telling people that they're making themselves feel oppressed. Are you kidding me? We live in this white man's world. That is a 100%. It is 2018 and we've had one black president, and you're telling me we don't live in a white America? How many black people do you see in our Congress? How many black people do you see in our Supreme Court? And you're telling me that this is not a white America? Are you kidding me?
How many black people run for president?
How many black people run for governor?
There is people running for those.
Just because they're of a race does not give them a special privilege. If you're white,
Except
black,
for white.
Asian,
Except for white.
if you're white, black, Asian, Hispanic. Actually, nowadays, white, male, conservatives are more oppressed than any other race.
How are you oppressed? Are you kidding me? You guys get so much time on the news. You get all this thing. No, tell me, I'm oppressing you. I'm oppressing you.
You're oppressing what I'm trying to say.
How,
I'm trying to have,
how
I'm trying to
are
have a
white
conversation.
males that are conservative oppressed?
Because-
Please tell me the struggles that you guys have been
Okay,
through.
let me explain. So at school, I had posted something on Facebook presenting my political views. I tried to be fired from the ambassadors, the student senate, and a trip that I'm taking.
What was your what did you post?
I had posted about the elephant in the room, that black on black violence is more significant than blue on black violence. But here's why. Because we'll see 1 or 2 or 3, maybe 10 black people killed by officers within a month, within a year. But we forget the thousands, the hundreds, the thousands of black men, women, and children in Chicago, in California, being killed by gang violence, drugs, and rape. We forget about those statistics. And I got called a white supremacist for that. I got called a racist because of that. But by no means am I a racist. I'm trying to bring these facts. Because we're forgetting about these hundreds, these thousands of men, women, and children dying a week. Finally, New York had a weekend where they didn't have any shootings. They praised a weekend without having any shootings. Do you know how horrible that is? That we're celebrating in one weekend. 36 to 48 hours without any shootings. That's why I have an issue with modern day politics. It's because I want to bring light to this issue that hundreds and thousands of black men, women, and children are dying. And nobody's caring about these people because, oh, a few white officers killed a few black guys. Now, I understand there is racism within a few precincts. I will understand that. I won't say that there's not racism within the police force.
Are we moving on to like? Well, because I was just gonna.
I do want to say I love where we're going with this, but I would also like to stay on topic. That I'm saying that more towards you. I do love where we're going though.
I just. Oh my god.
Please.
No. What I was gonna say is that so like how often on the daily would you say that you're met with racist comments, that you feel oppressed, that you feel like you know like your voice isn't being heard, like on the daily? How often would you say that would happen?
Anytime I go on social media, I will honestly say that anytime I would like to comment on someone's post, I know that social media, big whoop. Anybody can comment on social media, but
it's the way that our world's run now in 2018. It's
pretty much that's where the majority of our politics are, especially if you see where Trump likes to put his majority of what he says. But anytime on social media, I speak out on conservative views. Anytime on social media, I bring economics, I bring capitalism, I bring anything to the table. I'm constantly shot down because of the lack of melanin in my skin. And yet, even when I show a picture of my father, they love to, my family members and others will love to say, you're not black enough to be considered black. They'll call Kanye Kunye. I mean, how racist is that? Fellow African Americans calling Kanye Kunye.
The one thing that I would hope that we can all agree on is that there's discrimination within each and every race. There are white people that are discriminatory towards poor white people. There's black people that are discriminatory towards blacker, more, as you would say, it's not politically correct, but black people that would be discriminatory towards more ghetto acting black people, therefore, for a second.
No, I mean, that's totally the thing. I will not deny that.
And I mean, sorry. I was gonna say, so the definition of privilege, out of Oxford, so a special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group. So when we say white privilege, right? That means that basically like a law that is put in place in order that is specifically.
No, we're not talking about a specific law being put in place. That is is ridiculous. We are talking about the ever-present like actual like social like what's the word I'm looking for?
Stigma.
Stigma that clearly exists. It's existed since the beginning of time. White people have always been the ones in charge, have always been the ones that do this, and now we are still seeing that. We are still seeing our immunity from having to deal with how often do you see cops like abusing white people? Like we see all the time. You
see on the media. the media.
I'm
the
asking
media
how many
is-
people you see.
I've
I'm asking
seen
how
all-
many white people you see like abusing.
Unfortunately, I've visited websites that you probably shouldn't visit. If you've heard about it before, LiveLeak is a website that has a lot of explicit videos of body cam footage of policemen that are just abusing people in general. Women being beaten, white people that are living trailer parks being shot on the daily, just the same as being as another black man walking down the road.
It just
Do
makes
I
more
agree?
news.
Yeah,
Well,
do I agree
regardless of
that I
that,
see that in the
regardless
news?
of that
Yes.
example, to say that white privilege doesn't exist means you are not looking hard enough. It is ridiculous to say that me has the privilege against people that are colored to not have to deal with stuff every single day that they have to deal with.
So
let's look at the example of my roommate. She like immigrated to here. She's a U.S. citizen. She has her green card and everything. But people that are being, let's say, like racist towards immigrants, which is a very ever-present thing happening in America. Who do they do it towards? Do they do it towards the one that looks really white, like she could have never not have been born in this country, or is she doing it, or are people doing it to people of color? Like, her as a white person being here in this country doesn't have to deal with racist people saying to go back to her own country because she's white. She doesn't have to deal with that. That is an immunity she has over people that have to deal with it every single day, being told to go back to their country, to speak English, not your own language, things like that. She is immune from having to deal with that because she is white.
Okay.
And that is another example of white privilege. Once again, if you truly believe that white privilege doesn't exist, you are not looking hard enough. We can go into the statistics that I have that people of color that try to apply for jobs are less given that job over a white person, whether they have the same qualifications or not, because they always choose the white man or the white, not even the white woman, but the white person in general.
Depending on the job.
Depending on most jobs. In general, most jobs, white people are chosen over people of color.
So okay. So the common ground, as I said earlier, is racism, right? So I mean, no, white privilege, right? But so what I was trying to say before with the whole privilege thing. So privilege, a special right advantage in you. So white privilege, I believe, was very was evident and was in play during the like Martin Luther King, like that sort of civil rights. Like that was because there were laws in place saying this black man cannot do this, and this black man cannot do that, but white people can, because white men have the privilege to do these sorts of things because black men can, because they're white, right? But I don't see, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see any laws today stating that a white person can do this because of black, and black men cannot.
I mean, as I mentioned earlier, there's a thing called redlining, which I was talking about with applying for loans for houses, which many colored people are redlined out of getting loans, and that's a specifically like that's a real actual thing that's happening. So we might not have direct laws that are keeping people from doing these things, but there's actual it's the way our country is set up that we're doing that. But I'm clearly I'm not going to change any of y'all's mind, and I feel like this it's just 3 against 1 at this point, so I'd rather just move on to another topic because this is a dead topic at this point.
That's fine.
Actually, I'd love to say something just to the people, not towards you, just towards the people. And it's about prejudice, because definition of prejudice is predetermining somebody's abilities, somebody's personality based off of a system, systematic racism, systematic discrimination, what have you. But I would challenge those watching who might not agree with me or what have you. Just look when you walk down the street at the way people present themselves, not color. What do they dress like? How do they walk? How do they talk? How do they present themselves? Because psychologically, we will trust anybody who comes towards us with a vocabulary that is very well put together, versus somebody who would talk like slang. Even those with a country slang. I know people that will automatically take off IQ points if you come up with a country accent. That's a factor behind the whole racism thing. Pretty nice.
We live right off of Archer, so if you've heard that, we apologize.
So that's what I'm trying to paint to you guys, is just really look at what's really going on. Are they sagging their pants? Are they wearing like a wife beater? Are they, and if they're poor, that's a totally different argument. That's a totally different argument. I'm talking strictly basing someone off of prejudice of race. Look at how they present themselves. White, black, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. If you're in a wife beater or if you're in a baggy shirt, baggy pants, and you're thugging it out, I'm gonna want to walk on the different side of the street. I don't care what race you are, man or woman, I'm gonna walk on the other side of the street. Now, if you're in a suit, I'm not saying a full-blown suit, but if you're looking good, I'm gonna trust you a lot more than I would somebody who isn't. And that's kind of, it's a visual thing. Prejudice is based off of how someone presents themselves, how they have historically presented themselves. It's not race. It's, oh, I heard that the quote-unquote ghetto person shot somebody last week. Okay, this guy's sagging his pants, he's wearing a wife beater, hat's on backwards, looks a little ghetto, I don't want to be near him. That's what I'm trying to paint to you guys, is don't look at the race, but look at how they present themselves. If someone comes up to me with slang, not country slang, but slang as in like I can't understand a word they're saying.
Talking proper.
Talking proper effaces prejudice. I can guarantee that 100%.
And who do you think's walking down the street sagging and wearing white beaters and talking in slang? And who do you think's walking in the suits?
No,
like more than likely.
Statistically, you know the answer.
Then tell me the answer. Can you tell me that answer?
Poor people.
Poor people. People who can't afford the nicer things in life.
And what people are more likely impoverished in America? Do you know the
actually,
answer to that?
Hispanics are more likely to be impoverished.
Okay,
in America.
and I'm talking about colored people in general. So
wait, white's not a color. That's my question to you. Because everybody says what colored people, but white is a color, black is a color, brown is a color, yellow, red, what have you. We're all.
I'm referring to
colors of
people
the
that are
spectrum.
not white.
Say again?
I'm referring to people that are not white.
So politically correct, non-white, non-Hispanics, or Hispanics possibly, to be politically correct.
It's generally accepted that colored people is the term for referring to people that are not white. That's a pretty general, like, term.
So was the
But why-
N-word.
but why is
so
it
was
a
the N-word
general
for black
term?
people, but we got rid of that quickly.
Colored people and the N-word are not anywhere on the same, like,
Oh, no, they
on
were.
the same thing.
They were. If you look back in the even the '60s, calling someone the N-word was a natural thing. But
Yeah.
nowadays we have what's called political correctness, and thank God for the basis of political correctness. The N-word is not something you say to somebody ever. I don't care if you're black on black. I don't care if you're white on white. If you're with your best friends, I don't care. The N-word is not what you say. And actually, that proves a point. If you hear a white guy in public say the N-word, he automatically is attacked by everybody and their mother.
Oh, I can't wait to see where you're going with this. Go
I'm not
ahead.
going anywhere. That's just where I'm going to leave it. The N-word needs to be gone. Period. But
No,
that's
you
not
weren't going to go anywhere with, like, black people using that word? You weren't going to say, like, why can that white man not say it? But you were going to say that? Was that where you were
I don't think
going?
anybody should say it. No race, no gender. Nobody should say
So black people can't reclaim back that negative connotation that they had attached to them and use it in their own way.
This isn't
Why do
Yankee
they have
Doodle.
no right to
This
be able
isn't
to do that?
Yankee Doodle. This is not the British trying to make fun of the Americans. Did you know that Yankee Doodle is because the British are making fun of the Americans? We adopted that to one of our national songs. No, that's not at all what this is. Being whipped in the cornfields, in the cotton fields, being called an N-word with a hard R. And now that we replace the hard R with an A, it's automatically acceptable? Absolutely not.
It's not acceptable for white people to use it, but if
nobody.
black people want to call themselves that, then that is their own decision because it was the negative connotation attached to them. It is now their chance to decide what they want to use that word and how, because it is their right to do so.
Mhm,
It was the word attached to them. So if they want to use that word in their songs and with their friends and tell white people they can't use it, then that's completely fine because it was us. It was us that was using that word negatively, not them.
Okay.
So if they want to reclaim that word and use it for themselves, then go for it. That is their decision. Just like, okay, like I'm a Jew. There was very negative words that were attached to Jewish people. If I want to use that word, I can because I'm not using that in a negative connotation to my own self. I'm not because I can reclaim that word for myself.
Okay. Do you
And then other people can't.
ever call
Exactly.
any of your friends, and this is going to be a big one, Spick? Do you ever call any of your friends, what's up, Spick?
It's never even come to my
Never
head.
come to your mind. Asians. In the Vietnam War, I believe it was, they used to line these people up in the railroad tracks, in the street, and run them over. Their nickname? Zipperheads. You don't see any Asian person calling you, what's up, my fellow Zipperhead? You don't see that.
So because they don't want to do that, that means black people can? Like,
So
explain that to me. Because
what
that doesn't make any sense. Why? Because they...
What is the justification? Equally wrong. Equally wrong.
If they wanted to do that, they could do that just as much as the right that black people do to use that word in their own way.
So you're keeping
They're able to reclaim
racism
that
alive.
word.
You're keeping racism alive by separating yourselves from the rest of the United States, saying,
No,
"Oh, I can
I'm
say this, but
not.
you can't because you're different."
That
you're
is
different
not.
color."
That is not.
That's
racist.
racism.
That's not.
That's
racist.
racist.
That's not racism.
Saying you can't say something or do something based on color, that's racism. I'm sorry, that's racism. I can't paint this in any other way. If you're preventing me from saying something, doing something, and being something because of my color, now I can't say that I'm an Asian. I genetically don't have any Asian in me. I mean, maybe Genghis Khan back in the day, but that's beside the point. You saying I can't do something because I don't look black, I'm not black, that's racist. I don't care if you're a social justice warrior. I don't care if you're a liberal or a Democrat or Republican. Saying someone can't do something solely based on race, that's racism.
I mean, no one's telling you you can, but you shouldn't.
Shouldn't, can't, same thing.
I shouldn't do a lot of things. That doesn't make it racist.
Is it
I was about
Different
so the definition. So I went back. So the definition of racism, just to put this out here: prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one race is superior. That's the definition of racism. Just
So not what you're saying, basically.
You're the one that brought up racism. So
No, you wanted to
Well,
give
it's not
your
separation,
you wanted to
sanitation.
give your own definition of racism. He gave you the clear one that it is. So how about you let go of the fact that you can't say the N-word and that makes it racist because black people can reclaim the word that was put against them and use it for their own ways.
both sides are doing personal attacks now, so we're going to basically say, is there anything else that you'd like to say on white privilege? And if not, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next subject.
Let's move on.
Okay, moving on. Cool. So how do we move on from this? So with the current
Climate.
so politics or president, and everything. So I've had a lot of discussions with a lot of different people about President Trump, and I think we can all agree that he is very loose-lipped.
Yeah. No, he's loose-lipped.
We can definitely find the common ground. Am I right?
Shoots from the hip, no political correctness.
Right, and but he's also a very good businessman.
No,
Right.
he's not. He went bankrupt. Like, are you kidding me? To say that he's a good businessman is ridiculous. He's had to
Do
fall
you know
back on
that
his
if you go bankrupt, you actually collect the money that you get from bankruptcy? So theoretically, yeah, it screwed everybody else over, but he
Yeah,
made
so
money
like
off
my grandfather that worked for him, yeah, he got screwed over. He is not a good businessman. That is ridiculous. He is not a good businessman because, so for example, his taxation that he put on, or his tariff that he put on like steel, that was not a good move for our economy. So no, he is not a good businessman. As much as you'd like to believe, your little boy Trump over there is not a good businessman.
He's also your little boy, he's our president. So.
I don't know. He's not mine.
No, but and if you're talking about tariffs, actually he revoked a lot of the tariffs that he put, especially on that of our farmers.
Oh, because he realized he was an idiot?
Because you realize that that's what a businessman does. You can make mistakes. He's not perfect. I'm sorry that you had Obama for 8 years who screwed up.
I never said I liked Obama.
I'm just
so
saying,
Don't put
I'm
that
sorry
on me.
that-
No, don't put that on me saying, oh, Obama. I never said that I liked Obama, so don't put that on me.
All I'm saying is that he made a wrong decision and he fixed it. Is he wrong for that? Presidents aren't supposed to be perfect. And actually, if you want to go back to our founding fathers didn't think the president should have the power that they have now. Actually, it wasn't until about, I think, FDR that they started to get all the power that they have now, especially with this whole executive privilege and et cetera, et cetera. That wasn't a thing during our founding. The president was really just supposed to be a representative, one representative for the entire country.
The idea of having any one man or woman run an entire country is impossibly stupid.
Yeah.
By the way, he didn't take the tariff off of steel, but just
I said farmers.
No, I'm just telling you, like,
No,
he's
that's
still
fine.
making, like, still an idiot.
Well, it's okay. No, he's not an idiot. He makes mistakes.
Well,
He
here's the-
No, I'd argue that he's an idiot.
And I would, and then
No,
I
I'd
would,
argue that he's an
and then
idiot.
I would say to you on that point, and I agree with you, he has done very stupid things. But by that, I would say every single president we've ever had is an
Has made
idiot.
mistakes.
So especially the first one, who owned slaves, but he was still George Washington. He still
That doesn't
founded
mean
the
that I
country.
have to like Trump.
No, I'm not saying that you have to like him. I'm just saying by that equation, every president we've had is an idiot. Every single president we've had is incompetent.
Okay, that doesn't change the point that he's an idiot. Like, I don't know what, like,
Okay,
what
so it's the
your point
fact
is.
that you're of age for the Trump era that makes him our enemy. Because if you're 3 or 4 years old growing up in the Trump era, it's not going to affect you. But since we have the ability of social media and these debates, being educated and such, et cetera, this is the age of Trump. Whereas the age of Obama, I was still in high school. I wasn't in the political realm whatsoever. So, given that, that's why Trump is catching so much flack, is because our age people are in that time that we can educate ourselves and then make an opinion. Whereas like Obama, all the adults were attacking him, et cetera, et cetera.
So my question is, so So this will be a purely opinion based answer between the both of y'all. Okay, so with the direction of where our country is headed, what are your thoughts on that?
In what aspect?
Economically,
socially.
I would we can start economically.
Economically. Please.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Whoever wants to.
I feel like I've attacked you like a lot. So
You touched on the steel tariff earlier. I think that has to do with the economics of where the country's going. If you want to touch on that.
Well, basically what I was talking about is that, so last year when I was in my macroeconomics class, my AP macroeconomics class, we were talking about when he put this tariff on steel, how like, the way he did it basically is that instead of improving our economy, it's just going to negatively affect our economy, and that's just one of the things that I was looking at, because we were going into like an inflationary gap, but when he did that, it's kind of messing us up and it's not moving us toward permanent economic growth, which is where we need to work on. I don't know if you know what that means.
No, but
I don't educate me. Please.
Well, there's a thing called the LRAS graph. You know, I'm gonna send this link to Mr. Salamone, and you're gonna be proud I'm teaching this man what an LRAS graph is. It's like about basically it's this like graph. So like a line here, which is like the permanent economic growth line, and then we have like a line here, and another line here, and this one's supply, and this one's demand. So basically, when demand goes up, you're going into inflationary gap, so price level's going up, but GDP is also going up. Right. So like it's negative in the fact that prices are going up, but it's positive in the fact that GDP is going up.
Okay.
I feel like silly stuff. But anyway, so when we were in that inflationary gap, I forgot how to describe it. Basically, I think when the tariff happened, I think he said that the supply would go down. The supply would go down, and that would just bring us into stagflation, which isn't positive. Salomon, if I messed that up, I'm sorry, but I tried.
Sweet. So.
Macro. It's great. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Perfect.
God,
so what was that? So what were you saying before we got into that?
I mean, I was just gonna, and I don't want to pick at this scab, but if we look at African American unemployment currently, it's at one of the lowest that it's been in probably 20 years. Same with incarceration of African Americans. I know in Bill Clinton's era it was at its highest it's ever been, and now we're looking at lower incarceration due to jobs.
Oh, so job growth.
Job growth.
Well, wait, I was going to say something positive. We are actually, I will say something positive about Trump. You are welcome. We are, I think last time I checked, we were below the natural rate of unemployment. So
yeah,
there you go.
I think at 3.
And I agree with what's being said, but what I've also been heard on.
There you go.
What I've also heard on news media sites currently that we see on TV is that there's a lot of people claiming that's the after effect of Obama's presidency. And I've heard people challenge that. I've heard people speak on the fact that that's not true. Where do you stand on that?
I totally missed what you just asked. I'm sorry, I just don't know.
No, you're fine. I've heard on social media sites currently and on the news, it was one of the most prevalent things when that study actually came out. There's a lot of people claiming that that is only the after effect of Obama's presidency. And I've heard people challenge that. I've heard people speak on that. But if you really look at statistically after every president's run, the effects of the presidency doesn't last past a year after that, especially after all the things Trump actually.
Yeah. Well, actually, Trump currently has signed less legislation than Obama did in his first year. And actually, he signed, I think, less than a good portion of the presidency. He only signed, I think, 90-something things into legislation, where others have been, like, in the hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
But from Gallup, I don't know if you guys know what Gallup is.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
It's a pretty much a poll site, as well as the Treasury.gov. It says that Trump's approval rate is at 50% currently. In comparison to what Obama's was, it was at 45%. The unemployment rate currently is at 3.9, or at least it was, I believe, I guess a couple months ago. Whereas when it was Obama's time, it was at 9.4. You can kind of judge where we are with that. In addition to jobs added, Trump has added about 3.2 million, like I said, it was a couple months ago, jobs in the United States, where it claims Obama lost 2.9 million. The only thing I'll say about that is it also was during the Great Recession. Not Great Recession, but it was during the recession.
The Great Recession.
I think I've heard that before, but I wouldn't say it's great. It was terrible.
I've never heard it called the Great Recession.
Yeah, and I would say that's a lot. That has to do with a lot of the car businesses that went out of business. And Obama tried to pull them out of the gutters, put a lot of government spending into that. So that might be why there was so many job losses, but that's whatever. And GDP is at 4.1 at least a couple months ago, whereas under Obama it was at 1.6.
Do you know China's on its way to surpassing us in the GDP?
Well, as of 2017, it's still about 7 trillion.
They're on their way to passing us.
7 trillion away though. But that was just recently, and then 2001 was when they started to spike. So I will admit, they're spiking thanks to capitalism.
Socialism.
I was like, thank God.
Excuse me. Yeah, you would probably spit that off.
Anything else you guys would like to say on the topic?
No, I think that was actually pretty good. Yeah.
All right.
Great.
Thank you for the economic lesson, because I will admit I actually haven't gone over macro, micro since senior year. So it's been on 3, 4 years.
I liked macro. I liked the concept of it. I hated the class. I mean, no, I liked my teacher and I liked the class, but I didn't like doing it.
Yeah, no, I get it. No, the process.
The process. I mean, I still passed the AP exam, so go me, but
Yeah, see, my economics teacher, Mr. Kwong, I tried Mr. Kwong, but I have not passed one AP exam, and I took, I think, 4. So
you didn't pass any of your AP exams?
Look, I got a 90. No, you're good. I got a 94 in world history, but ended up getting a 1 or 2 on the AP exam. Passed the class is not the AP exam. Whatever. So.
I would know. So, oh jeez. All right, that was great. So, more issues, or ideas, not issues.
I think kind of the realm of where we want to take the podcast now is we've given you choices to talk on certain subjects that we've kind of gone over beforehand. Is there anything now that we're actually going through this, anything that you're passionate about that you may think that you might disagree with the other party on, that you want to bring up right now?
Oh, I have one.
Because I feel like
going back to the privilege thing, not the white privilege.
Oh, jeez.
Not the white privilege.
Taste where this is going.
Well, okay, so I had this discussion. I won't say any names or anything. I had this discussion with a young lady a couple days ago.
It was a weird thing.
Young lady.
Well, not
was it a child?
Yes. Yeah, completely. No. Okay. She was.
My time.
I said, was it legal?
Oh, can you already
That's the
finish?
question.
No. Just chill out. So yes, she was legal.
You're sweating a little bit there, huh?
You squeeze
Acid.
Okay, first it was a young lady. So that's a lady. Is she like a preteen?
Really HR right now. I'm trying to get this out.
All right, go ahead.
So I had this discussion with this lady, and I mean, basically, I brought up the issue on male privilege, right? And I honestly I agreed with her on some points because she would bring up women are harassed, whether it's sexually they're spoken to wrong. And I agree. I work at a club. I agree.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I agree.
I have a huge thing to say about that.
Yeah.
Specifically.
And I do think that women being attacked is a problem. Now, do I think that?
Watch your words.
Going back to the thing.
Watch your words.
I'm watching my words. So do I think that male privilege? Okay, male privilege is that an actual?
I've never heard it referred to as male privilege. I'm a woman that's clearly a feminist.
I'm just saying.
Modern feminist or pre-modern feminist?
Okay, so the actual terms of feminism, so I take a sociology class, there's actually 3 terms of feminism, and basically none of them are the crazies that you're thinking of. So there's...
I know we don't ever...
Okay, because a lot of people try to put feminism in a negative box. I don't know the notes on me, but basically there's 3 levels of feminism, and I would say I'm on all 3 of them. One of them's basically
Do you want to? I don't know if you want to.
No,
you can take your time to.
No, it's not really necessary. I'm a feminist. I believe that sexism is a very prominent thing in America. That's very very embedded in people, and I think that we kind of have to root all of that up and change it for us to ever see a difference. But also feminism isn't just about women, it's about men too, because it's truly sad to see the way that even men are in like America, like why suicide rates are so high in men, because like they don't have the platform to be able to speak about their feelings, or to feel like you don't have to be okay all the time,
right.
or you don't have to be so strong, like you don't have to be this type of person. You can be like you can express your feelings and not be called like negative names. You know, like the point of feminism is to fight for both men and women. Anyways, go ahead.
You were about to say something? I totally interrupted you.
I'm so
No.
sorry to interrupt you. Can you repeat what you just said the last line? I'm so sorry.
Oh,
You said
what
where you
did I
said
say?
I'm probably misquoting you, but I think you ended it with that's the point of feminism is for both genders.
Yes. That is
Isn't that called equality?
Yes, that's fighting for the equality of both genders
gotcha.
is what feminism.
All right, I was like, okay, well then why?
What do we call it, feminism?
Right, exactly.
Because females have been the most like negatively affected by the
And
equality.
so that's okay.
Inequality,
Gotcha.
sorry.
And that's
Gotcha.
why. Okay, no, makes sense. Okay.
I was thinking if you have something, if you're continuing, if not, I had
No,
something to say
no,
about
no.
your club point, which is actually really funny.
No, yeah. So I was gonna say, so working at a club, I see a lot of females.
Yeah, but no, because like I texted my friend this the other day because it really frustrated me. I texted my friend and I was like, why is it that a guy feels like they can make a deal with me for them to leave me alone? Like I've had multiple guys come up to me and be like, hey, if you dance with me for at least one song, then I'll leave you alone. Like I have to make a deal to be left alone when I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to dance with you, I don't want to touch you. But you don't see me walking up to like you and just saying, hey, dance with me for like one dance and then I'll leave you alone.
Maybe
and then
not.
don't leave you. Like that's a
Right.
huge like issue. Like I don't want to be. I go out with my friend all the time, and I see her having to deal with like these dudes that won't leave her alone, and she's too nice of a person to really be like, get away from me. So I'm the one that's like, yo, back off, because guys just don't know like when to walk away.
It sounds like some
It's
pretty
ridiculous.
awkward and stupid men.
Yeah, look, I like going out and having fun, like I do. So I've experienced this a lot, and it's the most ridiculous thing ever. Like I shouldn't have to make a deal with somebody to be left alone. Like just walk away.
Yeah.
Like what the heck?
Yeah. And that has a big thing to do, I believe, with parenting. It really does. You gotta start young. And I won't deny that there is a huge issue with men harassing women sexually, especially in clubs. I fought a guy who punched a girl in the face. And no, I know you've had your fair.
You talked about that story last episode.
Yeah, no, and
That wasn't the time that I went out with you, that you were with us, right?
were we at Grog?
Yeah.
Okay, possibly. But
Because
yeah.
I remember there being a fight, but I
But
can't remember if that was you.
Yeah, possibly. But no, it's one of those things where we need more men standing up for women in those situations. And actually, there was a woman by herself. Her brothers were getting drinks, and there was these two men who came up to her and started to harass her. And I had to push both of them away. And that's one of those things. We need more men who do that. Yes, women are a weakness to men. I'm gonna put that out there. I'm sorry, I'll first admit it. Women just
I get where you're going.
Biologically, when you see a woman, you're like, wow, it's supposed to be. She's beautiful. Like, I want to protect her. Like, that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's always been. We find a woman, we protect her, of course, mate, whatever. That's how it's supposed to be. What it is now is it's men who skip the whole attractive piece and want to protect them and just go straight to the whole, I just want to mate. Like, that's wrong. We need to teach men to first respect women, to then get to relationships and all that.
Well, unfortunately, it doesn't just fall on the parents, because like I'm gonna refer back to my it's marriage and family, but it's sociology. So back to that is like the agents of socialization that like make us the way we are. Like family is the number one thing, yes, but then we go into peers and we go into media is what's causing that, and we look in media all the time, which. No offense, your boy Trump over there, he's not creating a good example for the way men should be treating women. So like, and he's our president. Like, I know that you've said like,
Neither
oh,
Bill Clinton.
yeah, that's true. I don't like Bill Clinton either. I'm like, why did Hillary stay with him is my question. But, but like, it's just like, it's not just the family that socializes them. It's your peers. It's because like, you hear like, like Trump referred to like locker talk. Like boys like to talk about those things. And it's like.
I'd love to speak on that. I've never once ever been in a.
Guys do that though.
Well, hold on. So
What
there's a limit.
Neanderthals are talking like that?
There's a limit.
Our president.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I definitely, as a man, have been in discussions where I walked away from that guy. But
Yeah.
I've never been in a discussion where I've literally gone outright and said, grab him by the, like,
Yeah,
what
no,
the?
that's
And that's
more than
clearly,
it's-
and I would like to say on that, that's clearly a case of a man who throughout his entire life has not only been rich, but privileged, but I wouldn't say it's male or white privilege. It's just the fact that he was privileged.
No, I'm
growing
just
up.
saying, but like that is a thing. Is
Yeah.
that it does? It might
Yeah, it
not
does
have.
happen.
You
He's
got
never checked.
the three of
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
might not have experienced that, but that is a thing that guys do, and it's like
Only
it's
with
really-
men?
No, like no,
Just
like
with people
Well, imagine
in
you-
general.
I'm just saying like they talk like that, so like peers influence each other, and the point is that there's not specifically you three. I'm not calling out
No,
you
no,
guys
no,
at
no.
all.
I'm
Like,
just trying to make
saying,
sure
like,
that we're
there's
general.
guys that do talk like
Well,
that
yeah.
that influence each other that are making people like this. Because I'm just saying, I'm just referring to his point of that like it's the parents need to raise in this way. I mean, yes, that's a huge thing, but it falls under like peers and media as well as far as agents of socialization. As far as this
And
is.
So
I would strongly agree.
When you say I'm just trying to set the record straight. So when you say guys, so you mean like with peers, male and female.
What do you mean?
So when we refer to locker talk, is that the
Locker
proper-
room talk.
The locker room talk, okay. So when we refer to that is the subject. So when we refer to that,
Is it
we're
equal
also
for both guys
is
and
it
men?
even for both guys
That's a
and
good
girls?
question. I can't answer that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you don't normally see, and this is an argument I'll agree with. You don't normally see women going out and getting drunk and raping a man. However,
It does happen though.
It happens.
Men get raped all the time. I'm not going to deny that whatsoever. Like, I mean, that is a huge. Again, feminism. We're fighting for both men and women. Like, we need to fight for that as well. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're totally fine. I mean, I've had instances where I actually had to get management on a woman that consistently touched me and sent me pictures of herself. Yeah, it was not something I agreed
Wild.
with, did not consent to it, and I told her consistently, you need to stop. So I know it happens on both sides. However, me as a man, naturally and psychologically, I am, at least socially, men don't normally talk out about it. But does that justify anything? Absolutely not. Like, we should all respect each other. As
a human race.
As human beings.
We're in
overall.
this together.
Right.
And that's something I'd like to say as far as feminism. It's not that I disagree with you. I think I'm very confused on when you say feminism is for fighting for both genders. When the word originated from the empowerment of women back when they didn't have the same rights as men, it truly goes back to the equality of all people, of all genders, of all races. Because at the end of the day, when we like to subjugate these things into different categories, like this is for feminism, this is for racism, we're ignoring we're all human beings. We're all, at the end of the day, you go home, you go to bed at night, I go to bed at night, we wake up and we go to work because that's the way the world works. That's the way the world has been set in place. So if we keep setting the world in place to subjugate ourselves in certain different categories, like I'm a feminist, I'm a meninist, because there are men out there.
That's so ridiculous.
And it's mind blowing.
It's men
But
and
when we subjugate ourselves to these categories and we continue to perpetuate that, we'll continue to live that way. We'll continue to keep fighting for what we think we either don't have or what we still think the problem is, instead of really paying attention to the fact that at the end of the day we're all human beings. We ignore that way too much. We ignore that too much.
Yeah, thank you guys. Wow, that's a lot of information. And we appreciate you guys coming out again.
Yeah, thank you to both of you, seriously, for being willing to do this. Thank you for being able to be a representation for the people that listen to us. That was this perfect? No. Did we do some things wrong? Of course, we're going to do a better job at that. But again, if this was something that the message at the end of the day for this was for you as a listener and viewer to walk away feeling like you either bettered yourself or learned something from it that didn't have to do with hate, volatile experiences, or negative inclinations on either people from either different parties of what their ideas were, what their facts were.
Right. We're only trying to set an example. So because these are tough subjects. I mean, am I right? I think we can all agree that some of these things are tough subjects to talk about. Because backlash and even when we were talking, we didn't mean it, but there were some personal attacks that we all did. You know what I mean? And so because we're humans and we're all fallible.
Tribalism.
So basically we're trying to set the example that people are able to come on. You're able at the end of the day shake the other person's hand and say, thank you, because whether you realize it or not, you're learning from each other and you're putting your opinions and beliefs facts and, you know, everything. You're putting it all on the table for everyone to see, because it's good to talk about these things. Now, obviously, not everybody's going to agree with each other with different topics and everything, but you know, that's what, no, yeah, and that's what makes the world. That's what makes the world the world. Okay, because if everyone agreed with each other, we live in a dystopian society. That's a fact. And
everyone agreed with each other, we'd be in a dystopian society.
no, 1981. I think it's the book, isn't it? 84.
Close.
We'll learn from this, guys. We'll learn from this. We'll get better. This will, honestly, you know what I'd love to do? A year from now, from this exact episode date, I'd love to have the two of you back to kind of redo this on newer topics. That we actually are doing better. We have a more layout plan for that. No, I'm not sure to say anything, but I'm saying that'd be awesome.
Trying to stay alive.
Yeah. Like they're gonna.